What's going on, guys? Welcome to the week 7, week 8,
7
post week 7 into week 8 pod, episode 7 of the pod. I've got Window here. Window, welcome to the pod, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Came all the way out here to the boonies of Frederick to join us. Unfortunately, we had some scheduling issues. Jason, and by the way, happy birthday to Brittany. Shout out to her. I'm sure she's watching the podcast on her birthday. But I know it's her birthday, and so they're doing a dinner. So, Jason, we're going to reschedule him to be on the pod at a later time. But we're thrilled to have Window here. It looks like no one has joined the stream so far. I guess no one's used to us starting exactly at 8 o'clock. Jerry, he got here early, so we were able to get everything set up beforehand. And we started literally at 8 o'clock. It was wonderful. So, maybe take notes while you're at the beach. But no, we're going to do our normal week 7 recap, week 8 predictions. We'll talk about the transaction report, the offer report. We'll talk about some budgets. We'll talk about some transaction counters. We'll talk about a trade that happened that made some big news and big waves. And we'll talk about the standings and kind of where the league's at. So, getting right into it, let's get to our week 7 recap, which I'm pulling up right now. And as is tradition, we will start with my matchup against James. And I pulled a Rugson. I tinkered myself into a complete loss. I'll just come out and say it. So I made a splash on last week's episode in adding Deshaun Watson. I still think it was a gambit, but it was like I still November 2nd hasn't come and gone yet. It was always going to be a risk. I'm not necessarily saying it was a bad move. It did cost me this week though, because if I had started, I would never have started Allen Robinson at the Superflex if I didn't have Deshaun Watson sitting on my bench and Josh Allen on bye. So I was forced to start a non-quarterback at the Superflex. I started Allen Robinson. He did what he always does, which is get somewhere between 2 to 6 points. And Daniel Jones put up like a little over 17. Had I started Daniel Jones, I would have beaten James. So you're welcome, James, for me gifting you this win to be the winningest. You have the best streak in the league now at 3 games. No one else has a 3-game win streak. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this?
You're in a big hole. You're the only team that has 2 wins.
Okay, the entire league is between 5-2 and 2-5. If you want to omit me, the entire league is within 2 games of each other. The league is very balanced right now. And here's the other thing too, by the way. I'll go to the standings. We'll get to this again later. But I might be like the only 2-5 team. I'm also ahead of the team that just beat me in total points scored. I'm ahead of Jerry by a larger margin. I'm tied with Daryl on total points scored, who is also 3-4, and I am less than 50 points away from being the wild card right now. And 50 points, we know, as we've seen in the week 7 matchups right now, 50 points was the margin in Jason's win over Jerry. 50 points was the margin between our worst team and our best team by far. So, not panic button time. I was hitting the panic button at 0-4. At 2-5, it's like, and at 8th in points scored, it's like, it's not ideal, but I also had my first round pick go on his bye, who's going to be back now.
True. Because I was like, it kind of sucked that that Giants wide receiver we picked up wasn't able to suit up.
Kadarius Toney has been injured, and I dropped a large chunk of my budget on him. Again,
he'll come back.
He's questionable this week, and that is going to be a big question mark for me, is if he starts to produce. Wide receiver is the one hole in my lineup, and that's why I did the Deshaun Watson move. If all of a sudden I have my quarterbacks as Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Deshaun Watson comes back and plays for a team this year, all of a sudden I have assets at quarterback, which is a thin position, and I can probably get that wide receiver I need, an elite wide receiver. But assuming arguendo that Watson doesn't play, I'm hoping that Kadarius Toney or, Jalen Waddle or T. Higgins can kind of be that every week wide receiver I need to be serviceable, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say I might be a little biased because I have Tua, but I freaking love Waddle.
I mean, he gets the like Jalen Waddle, and I'll shut up about my team in a minute. But like Jalen Waddle, you look at his targets, right? It's like that's what you want out of a wide receiver that you're starting. 6, 8, 13, 4, 6, 13, 8. His target share is unbelievable. He only has 3 touchdowns on the year, and 2 of them came in the same game. But the problem with him is it's all like short screen passes. It's short little slant routes, and he hasn't had a 100-yard game yet this year.
It's okay, we're at half PPR.
But that's the beautiful part about half point PPR is like he's relevant because of it.
And if you notice, 3 of his best 4 games is when Tua was playing.
Absolutely. Watson Waddle stack. Yeah, there you go, Alex. I like it. We're gonna talk about the Dolphins because we always do on this pod. As a Dolphins fan, Deshaun Watson. If gun to my head, if you ask me, is Deshaun Watson playing in Miami this year? The answer is no. Right? Honestly, unless there is some part of the deal which the Texans aren't going to do. They're not going to make a deal contingent on Watson's legal issues coming up. Good, like every NFL team that wants Deshaun Watson is going to say is part of this deal. If he's unable to play by the commissioner suspending him or being put on the commissioner's exempt list, whatever, like if he can't play due to his legal issues, the trade is null and void. Every NFL team is going to make that part of their offer, and the Texans are never going to put that in their deal. So that's why I don't know that the deal may get done. If it does, the most likely suitors are Miami and Carolina, but Miami's problem isn't necessarily quarterback. Yes, Tua made 2 terrible decisions on Sunday that cost us a win against the Falcons. Tua's not the main problem. There's offensive line issues. Linebacker has been depleted. Aside from Jerome Baker, we have like no one. Landon Roberts has been disappointing. We've had injury issues in the secondary, you know. There are problems in Miami that don't stem from quarterback. So,
but on a fantasy lookout, Tua's great.
You
know, I'm a Falcons fan, so whoop-de-doo, my win against the Dolphins. But again, you know, Tua's a great fantasy quarterback for now.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Like, as much as I hate the Dolphins are a terror. Like, they've been on the bad side of some close games. They have a terrible record right now. I don't know that they're a terrible football team, but they have a terrible record. But the assets I have for them, Waddle and Gesicki, have really come into their own the last couple weeks, and I'm not too mad about it.
Even Gaskin, but we'll get to that later.
Well, we'll talk about Gaskin. I don't have him. And thankfully, I'll get Nick Chubb back this week, hopefully, and Josh Allen. So my team is going to get a little boost. Meanwhile, James, congratulations again. You won. Don't know that you necessarily deserve to win. You were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You were the 6th highest score. I was 7th, so you're welcome.
I do want to shout out James. James is the only person in our league that I'm pretty sure has most or all of his handcuffs. And they've been performing when he needs to, or won Alex Madison on the bench, and he still won that matchup.
So Alex Collins was super disappointing. Like, he did not perform. I will say that he does have his. Yes, you're right. He does have his the handcuffs. Like a lot of running back committees. He was smart to get Madison for Cook's injury issues this year.
It gives him like that peace of mind having to not fight on the waiver wire.
He was very fortunate that A.J. Brown finally did what A.J. Brown is supposed to do, because if A.J. Brown doesn't have what I presume was his best game of the year by a long shot, he doesn't win this week. A.J. Brown, up until this point, had put up less than 13 points every game. And he finally puts up 23. And, congratulations. But, are you going to get that... no one thought that the Tennessee Titans... I understand Kansas City's looked weird this year. They've looked weaker. But no one thought Tennessee's going to beat them 27-3. Tennessee hasn't looked great this year. So, congratulations. You got an aberration result out of A.J. Brown. Will he continue to perform? I guess we'll find out. That's about it. Nothing really else in this matchup. I mean, everyone's in freaking bye week hell, right? Bye. I feel like I'm at an NSYNC concert.
It's either that or injury hell.
Yeah, a lot of injuries. We have a new team name for McMillan, which is lovely. I think this is a reference to something that was said at the party, my birthday party on Saturday. By the way, shout out to like all the guys in the league for showing up. You, Window, thank you for being here in your division costume. We had McMillan there as Let's Go Brandon. We had Brad there as someone who didn't want to wear a costume. Zach was a fireman. Daryl obviously is far away in Massachusetts, otherwise he would have been here. Jerry was Risky Business. Jason was Brittany. Happy birthday again. Alex was Bob's Burgers, who won for Best Male Costume. And obviously, you were Division, like I said. So, like, amazing league turnout. Well done, everybody.
What was your
Thank
costume?
you. I was Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. And I had Velma and Ruby-Doo by my side. So, yeah, I mean, Brad... The title of this episode was how Underdog wins kept the league kind of stacked together and balanced. There were 2 matchups, myself and James, and I believe maybe...
Not this one.
No, I think it was Jerry. Yeah, it was Jerry and Jason that had the same records going into this week. Aside from that, there were 3 matchups where the underdog, the team with the worst record in every matchup, won. And it's crazy how that creates more parity in the league. It creates a more competitive atmosphere. So, well done, everybody. But Brad gets a huge win against McMillan to drop him to 5-2. And, you know, for the first time, we saw maybe a crack in McMillan's armor, right? Like, he put up 107. He did leave Derek Carr and Kenyon Drake on his bench that could have given him a little boost. But even then, it would have only given him, 2 points at quarterback and, 10 at... Actually, 7 at running back. So, in reality, there's no way he's catching Brad this week.
But you know what Brad and I have in common? We tied for second most points this week.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Literally a tie in score. If we played, it would have been a tie.
Oh, I wish you guys had played. We haven't had a tie in decimal scoring land, I don't think. Ever since we went to decimal scoring, thank you, Jason. We have not had a tie. It would have been even better if one of you guys had played Jason.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the most narrow margin of victory in league history. No, I mean, Brad is getting a tremendous boost from Jamar Chase, who, where is his ranking right now? He's gotta be wide receiver 2. He's the second best fantasy wide receiver in football. And don't get me wrong, I love it as a Joe Burrow man. But 30 points out of Jamar Chase, Chris Godwin, it's always nice when you're playing the guy who is starting your the fantasy quarterback that's throwing to your wide receiver, and your wide receiver has a 20-point day, because it basically offsets usually what your quarterback does.
And he's scary. This is a rookie that came into catching problems by saying, the football's different. I don't see the white line with the regular football. And now not only he's running great routes, he's also receiving the ball when plays break down.
He looks like the real deal. I thought it was going to be I thought T. Higgins was going to be that guy. Apparently it's just Jamar Chase. Apparently Joe Burrow loves his boy. But Brad had a great week. Not a whole lot else to report about. One thing to watch is how Dallas Goedert will do following the Zach Ertz trade, right? Because Goddard and Ertz were always splitting time in Philly. Now Ertz is obviously in Arizona and is part of the trade we'll get to later. It'll be interesting to follow what Dallas Goedert does, because Tyler Higbee's fine. I like Tyler Higbee, but if Goddard all of a sudden is getting 10 a week, he turns into a startable tight end every week.
It's more upside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more targets, more...
Philly has no running backs.
Yep.
A quarterback like Hurts is going to probably rely on the tight ends more.
Well, and speaking of Philly having no running backs, Brad's going to get another boost from that, because he's got Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah,
and Miles Sanders going to be out. Not that they're going to run the ball.
It's like a committee already.
Yeah,
it's him for catching, the other one for passing, and they're trying to bring out Jordan Howard back.
But Sanders is out, and I think Gainwell is going to be the lead guy in Philly. But they don't. If they run the ball, it tends to be Jalen Hurts who's running the ball.
Yeah, they don't use running backs. Period.
But yeah, congratulations to Brad McMillan. Like I said, just kind of a pedestrian day. He had down perform. I mean, he also, in his defense, had several guys on bye, including the number one defense in fantasy. He's still got Gronk, who's been out week in and week out. He's got David Montgomery on the IR. Like, I don't love... Like, I understand why McMillan lost this game, and I hope that some of his guys stay injured, because his team is stupid scary when it's fully healthy. Ugh.
I always like it when our number one person loses their record, so sorry about that. Just down goes the king.
Keeps the league balanced.
But I will say, Derrick Henry, now quarterback. I don't know. Can we get that edited?
Yeah, threw a touchdown pass. Derrick Henry. There was a meme I saw that was like, no running back ever wins MVP. You gotta be able to throw the ball to win MVP. Derrick Henry, hold my beer. And it shows him like dropping in the pocket. So then we've got Zach again losing to Daryl, who was an underdog. Daryl was 2-4 going into this matchup. Zach was 3-3. Both of them are 3-4 now.
I also forgot the predictions of you guys' predicting last week, but I just want to hold this true that Jerry predicted this matchup right, because I know he always votes.
Well, he always picks Zach to lose, right?
So I mean, this time around, since Jerry's not here, I'll be Jerry and say I told you.
Like, cue the Jerry talking about Zach sucks meme. No, like, and Alex, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't get why, like, Philly just hates Miles Sanders. I don't know why they refuse to run the ball with anyone not named Jalen Hurts. I don't get it. Like, I really don't. But yeah, no. I mean, Zach's team. Honestly, Zach. The biggest thing that hurt Zach was Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy G had the worst performance, maybe of his professional career, in that loss to Indy. Look at the numbers: 16 for 27, threw for 181 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a fumble. Like, he had 3 turnovers, and he threw for less than 200 yards.
And they're still starting him too.
They're still starting. They refuse to start Trey Lance. I don't get it. Like, really? You think Jimmy G's your guy?
But the good news is it was his third quarterback because Dak was on bye.
This is true, and he has this. He's not going to be starting Jimmy G any longer.
I mean, if he wants to, I promote it. I mean, he's still good looking.
Well, and that's the crazy part is everyone else on his team did okay, but here's my question. Why on God's green earth, Zach? Why? What were you smoking? What were you doing? What were you thinking? Starting the Jets defense! It's the Jets! I don't normally lose my shit on this podcast, but like, I'm losing my mind looking at this.
When was the last time the Jets defense was actually starting in this league? Probably, 10 years ago?
Never! Like, and granted, they've been between, 2 to 6 points? Like, here's the thing. They've been between 2 and 6 points against weak teams. Against New England, they put up 2. And you're thinking, oh, they're playing New England again. Oh, it's Mac Jones. It's the Jets, man. They're terrible. And they put up 54 points. You went -9 at your defense.
If he didn't have a defense, what if he... No,
here's the crazy part. Think about it like this. If you just take the defenses out of the equation, right? Just take both defenses out of the equation. That 20-point margin of victory that Daryl has is 2.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy G's 5-point performance, that's the win right there for Zach.
He's better off starting Mac Jones on the waiver.
But why on God's green earth would you ever start the Jets defense? Keep doing it if you want to. Start them all season long. But, like, really? I don't get it, man. I hope that someone will comment in the chat, will post about this, will announce on the Facebook page. Not enough attention has been drawn to this yet.
His best excuse is that he's a Jets fan, but I know he's not.
He's not. No. Like,
so he should just start converting now.
There's no explanation. Zach, if you're here, defend yourself. Or when you see this on Facebook, or when you see this on YouTube later, defend yourself, please.
Now go to Daryl's team. He's dealt with what? Buys or just all injuries? Just all injuries?
I feel so bad for this man because, like, Daryl has had the worst injury luck ever. George Kittle has been on the IR and is still out. Saquon has been out. CD was on bye this week.
I know Noah Fant was out for like a week or 2.
Jerry Judy's been out for a while.
All season.
Like, And to be fair, like, he's made the moves he needed to make to stay relevant. Damian Harris has been very surprising. Granted, again, they were playing the Jets, but Damian Harris has been an RB2. Alvin Kamara has been an RB1. Like, some of his picks have really paid off. D'Ernest Johnson, it had a fantastic game. I am hoping that they don't make Cleveland's... Like, Cleveland has a serviceable fantasy running back committee right now in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Both of them get numbers. Can we stop inviting running backs into that committee, please?
I was about to say, the Browns running back is now what the 49ers running back committee is.
I'm just hoping... there are also teams that have this, right? It feels like a lot of teams are moving to a 3 running back committee, right? Even Indianapolis has, like, Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines... Like, Jonathan Taylor's their every down back. Nyheim Hines is their pass catcher. Marlon Mack is their change of pace.
No, that's their trade bait.
Well, but they haven't traded him. And, like, Miami has, like, Malcolm Brown, Salvin Ahmed, and Myles Gaskin. Like, teams are using all 3 of their running backs, it seems, more and more. But, like, it's just enough with Cleveland. Nick Chubb needs to work, and he needs to eat.
I'm rooting for this guy, D'Ernest. I'm rooting for him.
Boo.
I'm rooting for him hard. He's a young stud. He worked hard. He has awesome hair.
But back to Daryl for a second. He's made the moves he needs to make to stay not only competitive, but really alive for the sake of the playoffs. And
this is the start of his comeback. I mean, he's what, 3-4?
But Tim, and what I was most surprised about in this lineup more than anything else was Tim Patrick putting up 2.6, because Tim Patrick has actually been, in the absence of Jerry Jeudy, has been a serviceable fantasy wide receiver. 11 every week, 11.9, 11.2, 12.3, 5.4, 12.4, 11.7. Like, going into this week, 5 out of 6 weeks he's putting up 11 or more. Like, for a wide receiver too, that's a fantastic floor at least.
I was gonna say he's technically a wide receiver 3 if you think about it.
Like, it's...
But he's putting up number 2s.
Well, what I'm just saying is, like, he's been super serviceable, and then he goes and has a down week. But aside from that, I mean, Daryl had a great performance out of all of his running backs were outstanding, and everyone else did what they needed to do. Like, Bridgewater was disappointing, but his quarterbacks are always a little weak.
I mean, his players are getting healthy. Ridley is no longer out with a personal issue, and as a Falcons fan, that was confusing. I hope everything's the best. I hope it's actually personal and not like a Julio Jones thing.
Yeah.
But, good job, Daryl.
Big win for Daryl. Moving on to the other matchup of 2 even teams. Both these guys are 3-3. Jerry and Jason Smith going into this matchup, and Jason Smith won.
Without a tight end.
He didn't start a tight end?
Nope.
Why?
Because he didn't want to drop anyone, and he's like, have you seen my matchup? And I go, oh yeah.
What?
I don't think Jason needed to start like 2 players, and he still would have won. Start half his team. He wins.
That's freaking embarrassing. He didn't start. I mean, not embarrassing. He didn't start tight end. Like, it's not like he didn't start like a quarterback. But like,
I mean, take out one quarterback, he still wins.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, to not start.
Also, he only started 1 quarterback this week.
Yeah, but I did that too. Like, that's like what I am surprised that he took such a bold decision. I understand the logic of it. Like, Dalton Schultz is tight end 5. He's making the trade. So, and it might have also been precipitated by the Jarvis Landry thing, right? He couldn't, once Thursday locked, he couldn't get rid of Landry. He couldn't make transactions. So I don't know what he would have done, but it doesn't matter. He got the win. And Jerry, meanwhile, and here's the thing. He got the win on the backs of primarily 3 players. He got, yes, the Patriots defense had an outstanding performance because they were playing the Jets, but he got the win because Kyler Murray has a 20-point floor. DeAndre Swift has been, for some reason, like an RB1. He's the 3rd running back in fantasy right now, which is just insane. And then Cooper Kupp is the best wide receiver in football, apparently. Like, Cooper Kupp, it is just blowing my mind what he is, and like I had the logic. I drafted Robert Woods. I picked the wrong horse. But anyway, enough about Jason Smith because he moves to 4-3.
Happy birthday, Brittany.
Happy birthday, Brittany. Jerry. He's lost 3 straight. He has the worst losing streak in the league right now.
Yes. But.
And he is, again, as was the case last week, I believe, last in total points scored. Look at his lineup. And again, I understand we talk about Darryl being an injury hell. He had Eckler and Keenan Allen on bye. He has a Chargers stack, and 2 of his best players are on bye. Not to mention the number 1 overall pick is still out.
Yeah. And last week he also lost because his Chargers stack tanked against the Ravens.
Right.
So the good news for Jerry is that they just finished their bye week, so he doesn't have to worry about his Chargers stacks ever again on bye.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, here's the thing, right? Like, it's not all bad for Jerry, right? Because once he gets Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen back, and I don't know what McCaffrey's status is, he's still on the IR, so, like...
At least 2 more weeks.
Yeah. So, like, in theory, right, if you look at his lineup now, right, he's not... Miles Sanders is coming out for Austin Eckler. Keenan Allen is coming in for presumably either Lockett or Julio.
For now, I would say Lockett just because he has Geno Smith.
But, like, either way you dice it, like, it's not a terrible lineup, but I don't love starting Nyheim Hines because he hasn't been used in the last 4 weeks. Ever since Marlon Mack came out saying, I want to trade, they've been using him more, and he's not eating into Jonathan Taylor's carries. He's eating into Nyheim Hines' carries. He also isn't getting the pass catches. Through the first 3 weeks, he had 12 catches. Since then, he's had 4.
So Jerry just has to wait till November 4th.
Yeah.
Because the trade deadlines, I think, in the real NFL is
November 2nd, I believe.
2nd or 3rd.
Yeah.
You know, and last time Jerry started Zach Moss, who gets all the red zone stuff.
And Buffalo was also on bye, so maybe he starts Buffalo instead of he starts Zach Moss and Nyheim Hines. But Zach Moss, I don't know. Like, I understand he looks like he's.
I'm nervous, but I mean, he puts up points. You
but
can't complain.
He put up points the first weeks 2 through 5. Then there was week 6, which made me question where I think they went to Singletary more in that game.
No,
like,
no. Singletary didn't do shit.
Let me look at what.
Wait, am I not allowed to curse on this?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, cool.
Week 6. Who has Singletary? Do you know?
It's a waiver because I dropped him.
Really?
Be my guest.
No, I mean I don't have room. The part of the frustrating thing with 16 bench spots is you really. Yeah, I guess you didn't do that much more.
This is the 3rd year I've had Singletary. I'm not. No, not again.
Well, anyway, but congratulations to Jason. Jerry loses his 3rd straight. He was 3-1. He is now 3-4. It's turning out to be just like last year. Hopefully, he doesn't win another title. And lastly, your matchup. Hello, winner.
I was really nervous going into this. You know, obviously the Tampa Bay putting up, 19, 21 points?
When your defense puts up 20-plus points, you're going to have a good time more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of, take that out and be like, you know, with this matchup and everything, I honestly thought Alex had a better chance of winning.
Yeah. No, he definitely had a better chance of winning. His team, in my view, is better than yours. But here's the there's so many crazy things about this matchup. Sam Darnold putting up less than 3. Patrick Mahomes putting up less than 8. How about Kyle Pitts putting up almost 20? How about Tua putting up 26?
Yeah.
The Bucs D putting up 20, like we said. Like, there's a lot that when you look at this matchup, I'm like...
Pittman putting up 18.
Yeah, Pittman putting up almost 20. Like, there's a lot in this matchup you're like, well, that's odd.
But you know what makes me feel better? I tinkered just like you, because you can see I started Slayton. I could have started any of those 4 at the bottom, and I knew I was already outrunning Gibson because his injury scares me. I want to see what happens later. But I tinkered, did not put in the right person with the numbers, and still won. So reverse of you.
Hey, as long as as long as you get the win, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Well, and so let's. I mean, like I said, this was just a weird matchup. There was a lot of stuff I didn't see coming. There were also, again, some bye issues. Like, everyone's having to deal with bye problems right now. Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, and Zeke. Well, Zeke wasn't on his roster then.
Yeah,
he is on his roster now. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I was going to say, with Alex's people on bye, that really helped me. Thank you, bye week. Like, I don't think even if
You also had James Robinson and Stephon
yeah, but
Diggs
even
out.
if he had Jefferson and his players, and I had my players, I still think he wins that matchup.
Oh yeah.
His bye players are better than my bye players.
Oh yeah. The biggest concern that he should have moving forward is Sam Darnold, because like Matt Stafford is going to be a stud, but Sam Darnold is a weak quarterback too, and Russell Wilson is still out, right?
You know who's an upgrade to Sam Darnold's 3 points, and that might get dropped? Garoppolo.
Maybe. When did he go on the IR?
Who? Wilson 2 weeks ago.
4 to 8 weeks recovery timetable from after he underwent surgery.
Yeah, but he's going to come back after 3 weeks of the IR. You know Russell Wilson's going to do that. He's going to punt it or kick it.
We'll see. Anyway, let's really quick just touch on let me switch gears here and go to the offer report for a second. This was a really weak offer report. It was only 5 waivers on Wednesday, and of those, all but 1 were for the Bengals defense. So Daryl, James, Jason Smith, and myself all had the same idea. We just had differing views on how much they were worth, because guess who they're playing?
The Jets.
Of course they're playing the Jets. Why would you start the Jets defense, Zach? Makes no sense. It's like offsides in soccer. Can someone explain offsides? It makes no sense. No, the only other move that James made, he put 3% of his budget on Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I assume is due to
COVID.
Well, I was going to say Devontae Adams' whole issue, right, being out.
Just COVID. He got tested positive. And they have a Thursday game.
Yeah.
So that's what? 48 hours he has to pass.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has to throw the ball to somebody, especially in a shootout with the Falcons. It's not a bad pickup.
But did James just drop him?
I don't think so.
I thought I saw something.
I'll look it up.
Where is recent?
He dropped him for Ricky Seals-Jones.
See, there you go. I saw it dropped.
Oh, wait, hold on. We're okay. Zach dropped the Jets defense. And he added instead the fantastic defense of the Chicago Bears. No, actually, they're pretty good. Khalil Mack is a good football player.
He's out this week.
Never mind.
I only know some of these defensive players because in another league we have IDPs.
Yeah.
And I'm learning. That's my learning season this year.
Yeah. Also, I love how Jason, that whole thing about... Well, let's talk about the trade now, because I just saw something else that's relevant to the trade. What is Jason Smith doing?
He's pulling... Oh, so... Okay, let's go backwards. He's picking up David Johnson because literally an hour before I left here, the Texans traded Ingram to the Saints. So the Texan-Houston backfield is this guy and Patrick Lindsey. So in theory, one of those two running backs is going to get more carries, and I believe David Johnson's got more carries.
That's
than
a good.
Patrick
All right,
Lindsey.
that's a good pickup. Here's what. So let's talk about the trade. So there was a trade that occurred. It was agreed upon in principle on Friday, but at that point, because of the IR, like Jason had a guy on his IR that couldn't make transactions, it couldn't officially be processed until after this week's games had taken place. It was processed, and it's a huge blockbuster move. Cooper Kupp, the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy, moves to Alex's team, along with Chase Edmonds and Mike Davis, in exchange for Alex giving up Zeke and Zach Ertz. Zeke post-bye, by the way, and Zach Ertz. This is a huge move, right? Like, the fact that, and I mean, it's a fair trade when all things are considered, right? You've got two, flex level RBs and the best wide receiver in fantasy going for an RB1 and a
tight end one. I would say Ertz might be a tight end one now.
Yeah, I mean, it will be. He is the most interesting tight end to watch right now, just because of what Arizona is doing with their offense. Right, Kingsbury, they're throwing the ball.
Yep.
So it is a huge blockbuster move. As a result, Jarvis Landry like part of the benefit of this trade for Jason also is that Jarvis Landry would stay on his roster. But then he goes and drops Jarvis Landry because he wants to pick up Christian Kirk. Then he wants to drop Christian Kirk because he wants to get David Johnson. But I get the logic now. If David Johnson, a two-man committee with Philip Lindsay in Houston, it makes sense. Houston's also not great.
Are you going to start him?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll start him. I would be shocked.
He just picked up Zeke.
That's true.
Why doesn't he going to start David Johnson?
Well, let's look at it. We'll look at his roster on the predictions.
Sure.
Just a couple more things just to give everyone kind of a sense of where the budget stands right now. McMillan still has yet to spend $1. I assume McMillan just thinks this is like he gets to keep $1,000 if he holds on to his budget and doesn't spend a dime. Like, I assume he's like, I have $1,000. I've never had that much money before.
I was about to say, what happens if this is his biggest bank account?
Like, I assume that's what it is because he refuses to spend a dime of it. There are some other big spenders who are going to be in play for big waiver targets if any come up. Brad has 87%. Daryl has 84%. James actually has a good bit of his budget for being having a lower record, but he's also on that 3-game win streak. Then there's Alex, who's kind of like a little over half of his budget still remains. And then Zach, Jerry, and I are all kind of in the same general ballpark. Zach at 29%, Jerry at 25%, myself at 19%. And then one of us doesn't have budget left, unfortunately. But
I don't know.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
Like I said, if I didn't spend, I wouldn't be having tinkering issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the last thing I just wanted everybody to see before we go to the standings is just kind of some of the acquisitions. I would have thought actually the most acquired players would have been Daryl in light of the injury issues. But really, he's only had to drop 10 people and acquire 11 people. There's actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more teams that have picked up more players off the waiver wire, free agency. The tinker of the year so far is James Waller, but he also, of those additions and everything, he's only started 29 different players, which again is the fourth lowest in the league for that total. The most turnover in terms of starting different players in their starting lineup is the true tinker of the year is Jerry. 50 different players so far, and it's Daryl's next closest with 43 different players, but it's interesting.
Look at the lowest number compared to Jerry.
Yeah, I mean it's 14. Brad has it's 3 times as much.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. If we're interpreting those stats right.
Yes.
The last thing I wanted to show everybody is just the standings so far. Obviously, the Hagerstown boys right now are in the at the top of the table. When has that ever happened? And then we have the
Chunks. We have
the Chunks. Team Chunks. James Blue Chunks and I Clean James Chunks at 4 and 3. And then we have kind of a 5-way log jam at 3 and 4. And then we have yours truly at 2 and 5. But it's a 3-game spread between first and last place. And even I, if you omit me, it's a 2-game spread for everybody. And even I am 1 game out of the wild card in theory, right? Like 1 decent performance, maybe 2 out of the wild card. So it's a wide open. I'm actually 1 game out of, in theory, 5th place in the standings, but obviously tie breaks are going to play a role in that. Anyway, it will certainly be interesting to see how this shakes out. We've got plenty of time left. Zach, welcome to the pod. In the time we have remaining while we're making predictions, if you want to post in the chat why on God's green earth you started the Jets defense, I would love to understand that. Thank you for dropping them. But can you just explain your rationale, starting them against the Patriots? Were you on drugs? Were you just hey, maybe I want to lose this week? See what that feels like? I don't understand.
If I was Zach, I'd plead the 5th.
Yeah. I'd advise that you do so. I'll take it under advisement. Let's go to predictions. I had to play McMillan this week, and I don't want to.
Did you put that? Oh, this is the prediction. Oh, good. This is great because I predicted, not you, McMillan. Like I said, Derrick Henry is a beast. Like, you could take him, and that's all you have on a fantasy roster, and you can still win. I know that didn't happen last week, but it could still happen.
If I'm Jerry, I'd be scared to lose any more games. So,
and based on the predictions, you are way outmatched.
I mean, it's a 6-point projection. I don't trust projections too much. We've talked about that at length.
Right. Again, he's got people coming back on buys. They're fresh.
I honestly, I think it'll be competitive. His team is just better. It just is. I hate to say it. Honestly, between the running back committees, I think it'll be about even. Quarterbacks, I think it'll be about. I think I have an edge on quarterbacks. I do have some things going for me, right?
Yes.
I have Joe Burrow playing the Jets. I have Josh Allen playing the Dolphins, and he has owned the Dolphins. He's won 75% of his games against the Dolphins, and he's thrown they've scored in their last 2 games against Miami 90 points, something crazy like that. I've got some great matchups at quarterback, but the problem really is that he's got great players. And at wide receiver, even with T. Higgins going against the Jets, even with Robert Woods going against the Texans, I don't know that I can keep up with Amari Cooper and Adam Thielen.
Start throwing darts.
But I'm going to make a prediction. I am predicting I will win. Fantasy football makes no sense.
I would love that to happen.
I've got good matchups. I've got good quarterbacks. This is my moment. I need a win. Let's go. All right.
Fix your flex.
No, it's fine. I mean, who else? Maybe. I don't know. Darrell Williams, I want to trust him again after he, put up 20-some 2 weeks ago. But this week against the Chiefs, it just didn't make sense against the Titans what the Chiefs did. Meanwhile, moving on to Zach versus James, a surprisingly resurgent James team running a 3-game win streak against Zach, who lost this past week, not starting the Jets defense this time.
So Zach's kind of... Oh. Well, I was going to say, he doesn't get to play Devontae Adams, and he looks great. I mean, his roster looks great. And Mike Evans gets the boost because, for some reason, Antonio Brown is suffering an injury. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, losing... the fact that he doesn't have Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, those are significant losses, right? If he had Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, this is, in my view, a no-brainer. Even with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews out for James. They both have big players out, but I do think ultimately looking at their rosters right now, it's pretty even.
Cook is Cook. Right now, J.D. McKisson and Tony Pollard, that's a wash to me. Both of them are the same. I was gonna say you're a Dolphins fan, and Myles Gaskin has the ability to blow up.
One of the interesting things in this matchup is they're both starting the opposing defense.
Oh, that's great.
49ers against Chicago against 49ers. So that game could play a huge role in giving one team a little boost. I am going to go with Zach. It's mainly just I think James is going to play catch-up at quarterback as he did last week against me. I think he'll be playing catch-up against quarterback. Well, that's not true because I didn't have Josh Allen. But I think he'll be playing catch-up against quarterback because of Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. Assuming Dak plays, obviously. I think Joe Mixon's going to go off against the Jets. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be a close game. James is on a 3-game win streak, but I think at some point he has to lay an egg. I mean, he laid an egg this week. I don't think his team. You know how Jerry shits on Zach's team?
Yes.
That's how I feel about James's team, right? I don't feel like it's that good.
He's top heavy.
He has Mark Andrews, he has Marquise Brown, he has Dalvin Cook. and Aaron Rodgers, I guess.
Like,
That's it. A.J. Brown has been inconsistent. Everyone else's team is hot garbage. Like, I'm sorry, your team is bad.
He's also covering bench for, 4 people on bye, but that's okay. He's literally the Baltimore Ravens and the Seahawks. That's what he is.
And the Vikings running back committee. That's all he is. Like,
yeah.
It's Zach. Zach's gonna win.
I actually predicted Zach to win.
Zach
too.
back. That's his Twitter handle.
Well, I know. That's why it came out wrong. I was like, "Oops, I meant Zach."
NBA Jam rules.
Heating up.
James. Yeah, he is. If he wins 3 in a row, he's on fire. You just got to pick him. I like that, Alex.
Shit, yeah.
Boom shakalaka. So we both have Zach.
I have Zach.
All right. I'll let you predict this one first. Jerry riding his 3-game losing streak against Brad, who obviously must not have his lineup set because Lamar Jackson is still in.
So I'm going to channel my initial Jerry, which is, why did you set your lineup? You know we're doing a podcast. Set your lineup. We need to see all these predictions.
Get him. Tell him.
All right. That was Jerry.
I like it. No, it feels like Jerry's here.
Second, of course I'm picking Jerry. His team's so good. Records means nothing. Wins mean nothing. Just his rosters and his players are good. So, of course, Jerry's going to win.
Do total points mean anything? Because if total points mean anything, he is the lowest overall total score. And I understand injury issues have happened. And I'd say he's gotten the worst of the injury bug by far. But Brad's had his own injury to contend with CEH and Kareem Hunt and Baker. I assume that a lot's going to hinge on whether or not Baker plays. He also... I guess he's going to start Trevor Lawrence and maybe Baker if he can. If not, I don't know what he's going to do at quarterback.
And what's really cool with this matchup, and this is now window talking, not Jerry.
Yeah.
They both have the Seahawks receivers, so that can be a coin flip because Geno Smith will have to throw it to someone.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I would actually once maybe Brad fixes his lineup.
Let's assume he's gonna put Trevor Lawrence in, right? We know for Lamar Jackson, that's 15.6 points right there. So we're talking 105 to 114, just right there. Yeah. I assume he'll probably.
I would not start Baker.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait till another game or two.
I don't know. I think maybe he starts either Carter or Gainwell at RB2 and then puts Baker in, assuming Baker plays. I
mean, Jones is gonna have a big night on Thursday.
And Jerry does get his stacks back. He gets the Chargers back. He gets some good matchups. Zach Moss may run all over the Dolphins. The Nuke's going to play against Green Bay. That should be a shootout. There are things to like in Jerry's matchup.
But Jerry also has to monitor his players' injuries, too. The ones that he's starting. I mean, I'm sure Hopkins is going to play. I know Hopkins is probably going to play, too, but he just needs to monitor it.
I am going to go out on a limb for my boy Brad. You pick Jerry. I'm going to pick Brad. And it's, again, this is more like Jerry's team has vastly underperformed this year so far. It's at last in total points scored. Brad has more bye week issues, I think, right now. Mm-hmm. Given that Jerry has seemingly no one out on bye. But because losing Lamar hurts, but it's not a fatal wound if he gets performances. If Jamar Chase goes off, right? If Aaron Jones goes off, it's a completely different game. And of the guys in this, right now who have gone off this year, I mean, it's so could, I guess, Eckler, so could Hopkins, so could Keenan Allen, but I'll give Brad his due. Jamar Chase is really good.
I want Brad to win, but if you look at their quarterback matches in general, I'd rather have Lawrence and Mayfield against Heineke and D. Jones. For now. In theory. Just because both Heineke, is that how do you say his name?
Yeah, Taylor Heineke.
Okay, Heineke and D. Jones, they just haven't been proven to be consistent yet.
Yeah, I mean, Jones has had the 2 weeks. He put up 17 last week. Before that, he put up less than 5 both weeks. Heineke's been up and down, but Trevor Lawrence also has not been great from fantasy perspective, and Baker is also questionable, right? There are major quarterback problems here on both teams. Quarterback could very well dictate this matchup. I'll go Brad.
Yeah.
Daryl and Alex. Alex, who, as he said in his chat, set his lineup for the pod to make sure we were good. So thank you, Alex, for doing your due diligence. This is Alex's first week with Cooper Kupp. He's going to start Chase Edmonds, it looks like. Not starting Mike Davis, although why would you? Cordell Patterson seems to be the guy there. Meanwhile, Daryl actually putting together a decent roster. For Saquon's questionable.
I don't think he ever went on the IR.
Well, he's questionable right now. I don't think he plays this week. It's just tough, man. It's just really tough for Daryl. He's got Jerry Jeudy back in his lineup. I guess they're thinking
he's scheduled to return.
He could come back this week. Interesting. Do you want to go first or you want me to?
I can go first.
Okay.
I think it's Alex. The Chase Edmond, he's due for a touchdown. I am a huge Edmonds fan. Not only because he's a patch catching, but, he's due. Playing a great offense, but, getting Cooper Kupp completely boosts Alex going forward. Because, it solidifies him having a number one receiver. But, can you see the bench real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Because, his other wide receiver, Antonio Brown, I don't think we knew Antonio Brown was going to go down until today or yesterday. So, doing this trade before knowing the news of Antonio Brown, I think really saved Alex. Even though we didn't know that injury was going to happen. So, anyways, with that, it's Alex has better receivers, but I think Daryl has better running backs for this matchup.
There are things I like on Daryl's team. I love that he was the one who got the Bengals defense against the Jets. That could be a huge wind in his sails. New Orleans probably is going to play from behind, which may limit Kamara but help Jameis to the same amount, or maybe Kamara turns into a pass catcher, getting kind of these 5-yard dump offs, which still is fine for fantasy perspectives. The thing that I don't like about this matchup for Daryl is Alex's matchups are really good in my eyes. Not all of them, but enough of them to give him, I think, the win. Sam Darnold goes up against the Falcons that made the Falcons secondary made Tua look like Kyler Murray. The Dolphins have not had a quarterback put up 26 fantasy points in a long time, and it happened against the Falcons, who have a depleted secondary. And now Sam Darnold, who is not a great quarterback by any measure, gets to play them, and he's due for a bounce back game. Cooper Kupp gets Houston, and he's got the stack with Matt Stafford. That's why I'm sure that's why Alex made the trade. Is he's got that LA Rams stack of Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And if history is any indication, that stack is very valuable.
And also, he gave up Zeke, but before getting anything, he still had Najee Harris. He's going to wait for Josh Jacobs to come back.
Well, he doesn't. Here's the thing. Look at his wide receivers, right? Look at his starting lineup right now, right? This trade actually may make Alex the best team in the league. This puts him in a tier with McMillan as some of the most talented rosters, starting lineups top to bottom. He has Najee. Chase is an RB2, a borderline RB2. But he has Debo, Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. Those guys are studs.
Don't forget, he's gonna get Russell Wilson back.
If Alex gets a quarterback, if he gets one more quarterback back, he's terrifying. And by the way, he's got Russell Wilson on his bench.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. This lineup, playing this lineup in the playoffs. Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford at quarterback and superflex respectively. Najee Harris, Chase Edmonds, Debo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson. Do you want to play that lineup? I know I don't.
No, thank you.
Alex is a good team, just like McMillan is this year. I don't know what Hagerstown did, but they drafted well for once. Alex has been a good fantasy player. Jason McMillan, not so much. Lastly, battle of 4 and 3 teams. You don't want to go back to 500. Jason Smith and Window.
It's the battle of the chunks.
The battle of the chunks. After we had and you guys are what, 3rd and 4th in the standings right now? You're right below the Hagerstown boys, the chunk teams.
Who's gonna be the chump?
I think the king of the chunks will probably be.
Does that mean that's the loser?
No, I'm saying the king of the chunks, like the winner. I see where you're going with that. The projection has it close. I'm looking at no one has any bye week issues on your guys' matchup. That's amazing. Man, look at the position ranks for some of Jason's players.
Then I would say look at my matchups.
You've got some really good matchups. But Jason, here's the crazy part. If you look at average scoring as any indication, right? Average points per week. His team scores more than 20 more a week than yours. That lineup that he's starting. That's scary. His team's also really good. Like, yeah. I think his team is better. I think your matchups are better.
Mm-hmm. I've been scraping by with matchups because, as you can tell, like picking up all those backup running backs, and they are performing. I think
Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore will have huge days. My problem is right now your super flex is Tua against Buffalo, which I don't think is a wise decision. I think you need to fix that. And I don't know what you fix it with, to be honest. Because
a running back.
Yeah, you got to and I guess you start Tua over a running back. You've got it because he's a quarterback. But like, the Bills' defense is really good. The Bills own the Dolphins. Like that's the reason why I got to go with Jason as well. Like, his team is really good, so you have to I think in order to beat him, you have to put up at least 130, maybe 140. And I just don't know that without a second, like with your superflex being 2 against the Bills, I don't know that that's feasible.
Remember, I did put up over 130 without, okay, let's just say 115. I'm going to exclude the defense without James Robinson and...
No, I agree, but
receiver, so.
But Tua playing Buffalo is going to be, I think, a major setback.
So I need everyone else to outperform.
Yes. You need everyone else to have career days.
So at least this is probably the most exciting matchup, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that... I mean, there's a lot to like in these matchups, right? Like, you have Jason trying to finish me off, essentially. Like, drop me... Like, Jason can go to 6-2 and drop me to 2-6. Like,
right.
I am in a bad way. He is in a great position of power. It could be a killing stroke. Zach and James are both trying to get to 500. You and Jason are both trying to avoid 500 and stay in 3rd place. I mean, this is a battle for 3rd place. This is a battle to move up into the upper echelon, the upper half of the league. Jerry's trying to end his 3-game losing streak against Brad, who's coming off a win and trying to get some momentum going. There's a lot to like about these matchups, and this kind of brings us full circle because the beautiful part about a league that is balanced, a league that is within 3 games of each other from top to bottom, and really within 2 games of each other, sans me, is it just makes it that much more engaging and competitive. So that's our pod. Thank you so much, Window, for being here. This was awesome.
Again, thanks for having me.
You're always welcome. Any of you guys are always welcome on the pod. I think Jason Smith may be trying to get back on here, or maybe trying to get on here given the scheduling issues. If anyone else who hasn't been on the pod wants to be on it, or anyone who wants to be on it again, just talk to me. Just text me, message me. We'll get you on here. I love doing these things. I love having you guys out here. Thank you again for coming to my birthday. It meant a lot to have all of you guys there. And good luck this week. Let's keep the league balanced, shall we? So hopefully I can get a win, and hopefully everybody can just stay around that middle of the pack, and we can have like just a 10-team race at the end of the year. One last shout out to Alex for not getting hammered at the draft this year, but more importantly for commenting in the chat so much. We appreciate you watching, buddy. Shout out to Zach, who said yo, and then I assume got so embarrassed about having started the Jets D that he promptly left. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week, and good luck on Sunday.
Good luck.